Hi, welcome to the MemSQL Developer Livestream. Head cut off. We left it in a pretty precarious spot last time. We've got user authentication started so that we can authenticate to the database using the user who logged into the website. We've got a failing unit test there. But next we need to start to put this into the rest of the application so that we've got so as you hit any URL, it'll validate that your database user is able to do that thing. So that's what we're going to do today, is dive into all of those pieces. Let's dive in. So first, we've got this failing unit test. Now this unit test very specifically tests for test admin username, which, by the way, we haven't set yet. Test admin username. Admin, test admin password equals password, and nope, password. And while we're here, the logging into the website, let's also give this website and password. Now we got these as we did our database migrations. We built up the migrations that put those users in place and add them to the correct role. So, we've got our database spun up in Docker, and we've run our DB migrations to get them up. And now let's take a look at our unit test. npm run test. Now with this in place, we should have a better mechanism for looking at all the things. How's our DB login test going? There's DB login. And it passed. Now this message in the logs is distracting, but we're very specifically testing for an authentication fail scenario. So yes, the login did fail when we passed in the wrong password, and this test passed. But yeah, maybe we might want to mock the console or create another logging mechanism so it doesn't just log to the console, but it logs into a more durable place. For now, we've got the DB login test passing. That's really cool. So back in here in DB login, while we're here, let's also create a test that validates that we can't log in with invalid username characters. So, we want them to be all lowercase. We want them to not have numbers or spaces. So username with invalid characters. Now we expect it to fail. I love this. The Jest plugin that we have. Here's that plugin, Jest. The Jest plugin with VS Code will automatically rerun our unit tests whenever the code changes. And so we can take a look at the results here as well. And that is cool. It's still in the middle of running it. And we're after kind of a bit speedier development, so we could just run them ourselves as well. And to that end, we've got a bunch of tests that take a while. So let's rename them. Here in our test setup, here in package.json, nope. Here in, where do we have our Jest setup? Well, it looks for .spec. So let's rename these tests to not have .spec. I'll say disabled. I know I can come in here and I can say describe.only or describe.skip, but for some reason, here in TypeScript, it seems to rip those out. So I'm just going to say, take the industrial strength approach. Disabled. Let's also grab this one, rename, and we will say disabled. Now, in our commit window, we'll see we created a file and we deleted a file. So hopefully that means that we won't end up committing them this way. But that is a possibility. There is a danger there. npm run test. And let's see what tests we have left. Go, 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 go. Okay, So we're getting a 401. We're getting a 401 here in the auth.spec.ts test, and it looks like that's the only one that we're failing with. That's pretty cool. So what is it? Should log in and get user info. Should log in and get user info. Let's take a look at that one. Auth.spec.ts. Should log in and get user info. Where is it failing? I'm getting a 401. Well, what am I logging in as? Well, I'm logging in with an email and a password, not a username and a password. That's one. But I've also got this hard-coded sum@user.com. I bet we're using that in a bunch of places. Yeah. So this shouldn't be sum@user.com, but rather, let's go to here and go grab the test admin username. So test admin username here, test admin password here. And this is no longer email, it's username. Username. And down here where I expect it to be an email, I expect it to be a username. Where else do we have it? Here's this test that does it. Yep. I want to pull it from config. Let's grab the username there, username, and username, username. This is in the password. I believe this one is pulling out the authentication token. This is inside the dist folder. This is also inside the dist folder. So those are those tests. Those are coverage results, not test files. So I think we're okay. Ooh, test 20 passed. We have completely passing tests. That is really cool. Well, kind of. We have completely passing tests with all of these disabled. Here in the auth.spec.ts, one thing we might want to check is expect res.body.secret to be undefined. Or better said, that body doesn't have a secret property. Let's see, are we leaking secrets when we go get our user login information? So far we're passing. So far we're passing. So far we're passing. This is awesome. Oh, fail. We are sending out the token. Now this is an encrypted password and it is in the JWT already, but we probably don't want to leak this detail. Let's come back into our auth.ts and we're just handing back the user. We probably don't want to do that. Let's say delete rick.user.secret. And it's going to say, hey, that's not a thing. Yeah, you're right. It's not a thing. Let's come back into types user. And right now we only have username regex. We're not validating it or not username regex dot test username. Let's go double check that we're grabbing the username regex. From user, yeah, but we probably want to go from types user. Okay. So here in types.user, we're pulling in the username regex, but let's also create export type. Let's call it a user type. And this user has a username. This is a string. It has a secret optionally that is a string or undefined because we may be clearing it. And now that we have this user type here in the auth, we can say, well, let's say const user equals rec.user as user. Now, rec.user is an express user, but we want to very specifically say it's the user that we want. So now with this user, if we have a user, let's delete user.secret and return user, and now we're good to go. Well, we've kind of got enough going on here that it might make sense to flip this if else. We could say if not user, return 401 rather. And we could say something like, please log in. Nah. Now, what about this? We are changing the request user, deleting the content. Now, we are mutating an object that we don't control, but this is the end of the response, so maybe it doesn't matter. If we're specifically worried about this, we can say const result equals object.create. Let's pass in null. Let's pass in user. Is it create? Object.assign. And now we have an object that we can mash up and it won't affect the original one. So now we can say result.secret and return result. That works. Now we were able to get back the user, and let's double check to see if our test is going to work. We probably have now validated that we aren't exposing the secret. Now that's really cool. The secret is encrypted with a key that is never sent to the client. And so in theory, we're okay-ish. But similarly, I do want to renew the objection to returning the user's password in a reversible mechanism. So yeah, this is a cool experiment, but if we were going to do this in production, we probably wouldn't want to do that. Oh, hey, delete user secret in another place. So let's go find where that is. Delete user.secret. Here, ooh, yeah, this user is of type user. Now that we know it's of type user, as we delete the user secret here, then we still get that, that proper result. It didn't know that this could be string or undefined. So it was telling us that there was a bad result there. Let's kick off the tests and see what we've got. Go, 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 go. Are we going to pass the test? Are we going to pass? Are we going to pass? Ooh, yes. All of our tests pass. Well, kind of. All of our tests pass while we've got those 3 disabled. But one of the things that we're doing here that is kind of interesting is here in the app.ts, we are spinning up a new database connection with a hard-coded username and password. Now, that worked before, but we want to do this specific to each request instead. So we could take this code, let's go back into product, and here inside product, oh, that's validate, we're going to go grab the database. Now we grab it from the application and it's not going to be there anymore, so we could do something like this everywhere. That's kind of a lot. We could, well, we created this service, so we could just call db login, passing in the string, the username and password, but that username and password is inside the user. We need to unencrypt that user. So, you know, doing it here and everywhere else kind of seems like a lot. Now, one of the things that we do up here is we say authenticate, and it goes and grabs the cookie and turns it into a property on the user. Let's do a similar thing. Let's create some middleware. So here in source, I'm going to create a new folder, middleware. Now, what is middleware? Well, it's something that takes in a request and response, export default function, db connection, and let's say db authenticated. It takes in a request and a response and a next function. Now, much like normal things, we could take in a request and a response in next, but in this case, we could choose to end it, or we could choose to pass it on. So if everything is okay, then we'll call next. Not next tick, next. Oh, not next. Let's give it some TypeScript definitions. This is a function that will look like that. Request and response, we can pull that probably off one of these. Here's request and response. We will go grab those details from Express itself. Let's go grab the DB connection as well. Okay, so if everything is okay, we call next. If everything is not okay, then we could say res.status 401. I'm confident that we do this somewhere. There we go. Invalid username password. So we can say, if it's not okay, let's just end. Now, one of the things that we do is if false, we can just end. Well, if we were to just do this, actually, let's say true. If we were to just do this, it would do this, and then it would fall through and continue on and keep doing it. So we probably need to return. Now, what are we going to do? Well, we need to go try to get that user detail out of this and do the thing. So const username equals rec.user.username. Const password equals rec.user.password. Actually, it's called secret, and we need to unencrypt it. So let's say const user equals rec.user as user. Now we have all of the TypeScript goodness. Go gadget TypeScript. Thank you. Types. So now we'll go grab user. We'll go grab secret. Well, the way that we did secret here. Let's go grab simple crypto. Let's close the everything. Close others. And let's go pop open our middleware. Okay, so we have this simple crypto. And the simple crypto, we will grab the JWT token or JWT auth. And now we have this simple crypto. And what we did to encrypt the password is exactly what we'll do to decrypt the password. So let's decrypt the password, and this is user.secret. It might be null, so let's pass in a blank screen. And now we have the password. Now it is unauthenticated, unencrypted. That is perfect. So if we don't have a user, we can say if not user, then let's dump out early. No need to go try and log into the database if we don't have any credentials. Now there is a possibility of a timing attack here where they can pass things and validate how long it takes to return. And so it might make sense to do some random sleep here, maybe, if we're worried about that attack. In this case, I think we might be good. So now, what do we need to do? Const db equals await db login, username, and password. The db login comes from there. Perfect. Oops. Let's go grab, nope. From services db login. Oh, then we don't need connection. That's cool. So here's this connection, and we're going to pass in a username and a password. Oh, this password isn't a string? Decrypt, let's say, as string. We know that this will be a string or undefined. Okay. Oh, we need to await it. So let's say export default async function. Haha. Now we've decrypted our password, and if we don't have a database, then we know we need to dump out and say, hey, you need to log in, please. Please log in. Or if we do have a database, then let's stick it somewhere. Res.locals is similar. Unfortunately, there's a request.app.locals, but there isn't a request.locals. Yeah, we could invent one, but let's just use the one that exists. res.locals.db equals db. Cool. Now we have this connection, we've started it, we've opened it here. There is one thing that we probably need to do to clean up. Now, closing the database when we're done is interesting. We need to do it after we've done all the things though. And so do we async await for next to finish? That isn't really a thing, but rather we can say res.onFinish. And now we're in a spot where we can do stuff when we're done. So we'll say db.end. Perfect. Now this is a promise, so we'll say await db.end, which means this is async. And now our database will automatically close once the request is complete, whether it succeeds or fails, which is perfect. Okay. So we have this DB connection. Now testing this would be a little bit weird. Definitely possible, but we need to do things like mocking the request and the response, setting environment variables. Maybe we might want to mock the simple crypto. It's kind of involved. So let's just set it in place and see if this works. DB authenticated. Well, there's a similar mechanism if we're unauthenticated. So, what if we have an anonymous method? Well, in this case, it's not default anymore. In this case, we don't have all of the go get the user and decrypt the things. Rather, we have the username and password as we do here. Let's go grab our username and password. That's the password. The password. Okay. So now we have our username and password. We could do some interesting things about validating that they're not null, but DB login's going to do that. So now we can say, well, if we've got here and we don't have a database connection, I'm going to say next new error. Please log in. Well, probably please log in is not the appropriate message, but I can say username or password invalid. Now the cool but unfortunate part is that, expected 0 arguments, but got 1 new message. It's a string, you twit. Oh, that's why, because this is optionally an error, which is unknown. Nope, it's going to get mad at me. Can we say it's an error? Yeah, cool. So when it's not okay, let's throw an exception. Well, we could throw, but Express isn't great with throwing exceptions. It really wants them to be passed into next. And so the bummer part is because this exception isn't thrown, it doesn't have a stack trace. Yeah, so sometimes I just throw it anyway and call it good. Because it's an async method, it could get a rejected promise. So yeah, let's just say throw new error, and yeah, Express, go fix it. But now we've done an anonymous method and an unanonymous method, which allows us to do some really cool things. So back here in our product API, once we've authenticated, so now our request.user is set, then let's run this db authenticated middleware, and then let's run create product. So let's pull in our db authenticated middleware. There we go. And we'll add db authenticated here and db authenticated here. We do need to add db anonymous here, and let's import it. And we need to add it here because otherwise we won't have a connection at all. We'll put it there. We'll put it here in products. Now here we only use db anonymous. Let's pull it in. Thank you, VS Code. Inside properties, we will only use db authenticated because all of these methods require authentication first, even the get. Import db authenticated. Cool. Now we've done a lot. In our auth route, we don't need a database in this get current user. So though we could say db authenticated here, nah. And that's all of our routes. The index route just returns the public page, and arguably we don't use this. So maybe we might want to delete this or talk about other mechanisms to do this. The other piece we need to do now is that we're still in the validate method. Here, rec.app.locals.db. We need to go find all of the places that do that and teach them that it's actually res.locals.db now. Modify all the things. It will modify it in the coverage results, and that's totally fine. But it will also modify it in all of our files. Now, in some of our tests, we don't just say rec.app.locals.db, but we're actually saying locals?.db. So let's go find those as well. Here's a test that does that. Ooh, now this is assuming that we're spinning up the database in each place. And we don't need to spin up the database in each place anymore. In our app, we won't spin up the database at all. So we can just delete that one. Let's delete it out of here as well. And let's go find it in here. Yep, we don't need it here as well. Here in product create, nope, don't need it there. While we are here in the product create fixture though, save fake product. We're returning the product, but we didn't get the ID yet. So let's say product.id equals res.body.id. That will save us from a rather embarrassing error later. Okay, here's another one. After each, we don't need to clean up the database anymore. We don't need to clean up the database here anymore. And to that end, here in app.ts, we don't need to set the database anymore. Any request that needs it will go grab it from that middleware. Save all. And now we've got this middleware in place. This DB connection middleware will go grab the connection out of the or grab the user out of the request, decrypt its password, and log into the database. It'll store that database login in the spot, and when the request is done, it will finish it up. It'll close it back up. So we're not using connection pools here. Okay. But now in all of the tests, we can just go reach into res.locals.db and go grab it. Now res.locals is a great way to pass variables from these controller methods, these route methods, into view renderers. And in this API, we're not using a view renderer, but it is possible that this would leak into the view, and views might start doing database connections. That's part of why I really don't like it in res.locals. I would like it in request.locals, but request.locals isn't a thing. Because we're not rendering any views here, yeah, maybe we're okay. Okay, let's run all the tests and see how we did. We have 2 failed. And the 2 that failed say res.locals.db was blank. Ooh, this is pretty cool. Let's close all. Now this res.locals is inside source routes product from the unit test routes product.spec. Okay, so here in our unit tests, we're presuming that we need to set the database in our request. Here in make mock request, we take in that database connection and all of the other things, and we set it in app locals. Yeah, that's not where it goes anymore. Let's instead say, well, this could be a connection. Let's pull in connections from MySQL to Promise and locals DB. Okay. Well, what is this? Locals. We have a DB, which is a connection. Now, there might be some requests, some tests where we don't necessarily need to pass a connection. So let's say this is or undefined, and let's allow undefined here, and let's make this optional. Now, towards discovering all of the places where we did it wrong, we might want to make this required so that we can see them all. But we've also done it wrong here in this side of it where we were passing it in. So I think all of the places where we've done this incorrectly are obvious. Here's that spot. Make mock request doesn't pass in a DB anymore. We pass the DB in there. Okay, let's find all of these ones. Make mock request, passing in DB. Oh, that's in dist. We don't want them in dist. There we go. So let's yank the database out of there and pass it there. Let's yank the database, nope, not the request, out of there and put it there. We could do some really cool regex magic to go discover them so that we don't have to copy and paste them all. But there's only a few, so I'm not worried. There's that database. Okay. Now we do have some inside dist. That's the built result. But we're pretty good all around. Let's take a look at this. 2 failed. Oh, let's save all. Not save as. Save all. Looks like we did save all. File. Save. How did we do? Looking good so far. Go, 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 go. Oh, it's not encoding the colors correctly. All else being equal, I wish it did, but it's running inside of a Windows terminal, I'm guessing. Ooh, all of our test suites passed. That is perfect. So now we've got user authentication. If we were to go into the website, we could log in, we could get our user back out, we could go to all the other pages and log in there. Probably. We've commented out some unit tests. Let's put them back in place and see if we've got some errors there. Rename this from disabled to regular. Let's rename this from disabled to regular. Let's rename this, undisable it. Cool. It may not catch the new unit tests. Oh, I guess it did. So we may need to run them manually. Oh, it looks like it did. It caught them and we've got all the things. I'm going to npm run test here just in case. Go, 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 go. Okay, we're doing awesome. This is cool. We've got all of our tests passing so far. I think it's going to be great. Now remember that one test that we abandoned shortly before we did the database migrations piece, before we did the user authentication piece? I have a feeling that's about to come back and bite us. Yes, here we go. There's a test fail. Ooh, has failed to exit gracefully. We should probably go find where we're creating a connection and not closing it correctly. But anyway, probably because we've done some fails here. So it should modify a product. We're getting a 400. Yeah, we're getting a 400 because here in product.spec should modify. Oh, that's the unit test. In the integration test, product.spec should modify a product. Okay. So we're going and looking inside this products list. And we got this products list from this fixture. If we go to the route that will return the product list products, here we're only grabbing ID, product code, name, and image and active. We're not grabbing all of the properties. We're not grabbing anything to keep that data as light as possible over the wire. So now we're saving we're modifying a few things and we're saving it. And what it's telling us is that some of the properties aren't valid. Now, 400 isn't a very descriptive error. In hindsight, we probably should say here in product, when we are validating the product right here, we just say true or false. Probably we should return an array of the properties that are invalid or maybe error messages. You know, that could really help the UI to figure it out. Right now, we're just kind of saying, nope, screw you. So, yeah, we need to work on that. But the problem here is in all of our integration tests that go and grab this product list and then try to change things, bad things happen. So let's go find all of the things calling this and tell them to use product instead. So we have this product create and get first page of products. That's not what I'm looking for. What I'm looking for is this one. Ooh, get products. That's what I called it. So we're looking for all the things using this fixture. There we go. Outside of dist. Ooh, is it only this one? Nice. And we want to instead call product create. Save fake product. Save fake product is the one where we needed to go grab that ID But back here, save fake product. Now, instead of going and grabbing the products at the beginning, every time we need a product, let's just say const product equals save fake product. What is a product code? Well, we do some randomization of product code here. So let's go do that. Product code, save fake product. We can call this expected. Nope, this one, expected. We'll pass in the product code and we pass in the token so we can authenticate correctly. We will await this. So now here's that product that we expect. So now when we're doing all of the things, we can say product.id to be greater than 0 and also expect product.id to equal expected.id. Nice. So this methodology of creating a product every time is probably a much more durable mechanism. Here we're already creating a fake product, so that's great. We don't need to save it for later because we're not going to do that. Here, let's go make a fake product as well. So we don't need to do all of this, but we can say expected.id. We've already got our product code. We don't need to filter it out. Expected, we've already got expected. And so now we can start to mutate it. Perfect. Okay, one more spot. Let's go. We don't need to grab a product. We don't need to validate that the product exists. Expected.id. We already have a product code and we don't need to filter it out of the request. That's great. So now because we've created new products in all of the places, rather than trying to mutate existing products, now we know that we've got solid data when we're doing everything, and we don't need to be worried about accidentally modifying data that we thought was real. This will create new products, run all the tests. It does fill up the table because we don't go back and delete all of those products at the end. But if that was a concern, we definitely could get the test to delete them when we're done. Or knowing that we only run our tests outside of production, filling up our database with test products may be perfect. Drop the database, restore last night's backup database, and continue on with all the tests. I think that's great. Let's see how our tests are doing. Woohoo! All of our tests are passing. This is great. Okay. So we're doing all of the things and we're logging in and we're running the requests, but here inside product, not here, here inside the product route, well, what if I log in? I have a user, I log in, but that user doesn't have enough permissions. It's not in the right role. It would be pretty cool to, pre-validate in role. Let's say user role dot catalog editor. That would be cool to test this. So what we're doing here is we're saying authenticate, then go check the role, then go get the database connection, and then ultimately run the method. Now, when we run the method, if the user doesn't have enough permissions to run that query in the database, of course it will fail. But this in role is a great way to double check it first. So in role. Now, again, we could, copy and paste this into all the things and do all the interesting stuff, but let's create a middleware instead. that's kind of a cool methodology inside of Express to do this. Let's say new file, enroll.ts. Now the way that we would do this, export default async function enroll. We want it to look like this. So, the way we do a let's just grab the whole thing. That'll be cool. We don't need all of the crypto stuff, so let's nuke that. Okay, we want this to be enroll. So we take in a request, a response, and next we can go grab the we can go do whatever we're going to go do. If it's not okay, we'll dump out. If it is okay, we'll continue on. And so what we're here to say is let authenticated equals false. So if not authenticated, we're not going to throw an error this time, but we'll just say res.status JSON under authenticated. Now, as we return messages to the user, especially around authentication, we probably want to be as vague as possible. We don't want to give any attackers any more information than they already have. In this case, telling them that they do have a user, but it's not valid enough is probably a good move. Now, the interesting thing here is let's go grab the user. Const user of type user equals request.user. Well, we have to say as user because, an Express user is not a thing. And so we want to say let authenticated equals user.roles dot find r equals role. We probably want to say something like that. Now we don't have roles yet. We haven't passed. Oh, how do we pass in the role? Well, this is a middleware, and this is that thing that the request and response will go into. But we probably want to say export default async function enroll and take in a role that is of type user role, and we will return this validate role function. Now that is a little mind-bending. I'm not going to use the word curry as we start talking about functional things, but what we're doing is we have this function that we can call, and this function will return a new function that we can hook into Express's pipeline to do all the things. So that's how we get this role into place so that we can validate the role. Now we need some user roles. Let's go look at the user object. We need to say export enum user role. Now this could be user editor. This could be catalog editor. This could be catalog read only. And let's say user editor, just so that we have some content there. Catalog editor and catalog read only. Here are the roles that we've defined in our database. And so now when I have this user role, I can come in here to in roles. Let's close to the right. Close some of these. Okay, so now when I pull in the user role, now I can go look through this and go grab the role. Now this will see if there are any. So let's say, we'll not it. Now this is a Boolean. And now we can say if we're not in role, then dump out. Otherwise, continue on. Let's create some roles. Here in the user, I will create a roles that is a user role array. And now we have some roles here. Nice. So we've got some user roles and we're ready to go. Writing the test for this is actually going to be quite elegant. Let's get this in place first. Go gadget import all the things. Let's grab user role. Nice. In role. That's weird that it doesn't like it. What doesn't it like? Oh, I didn't put in next. Oh, I did put in next. That is weird. Well, do I want to go look at that? I do. In role. That is strange. Did it pull in the spot from... Nope. Okay. Well, anyway, let's come back to that. Let's write a unit test around this. In role. So in this case, I'll do a unit test. Let's create a new folder, middleware. Let's create a new file in role.spec.ts. I've forgotten that .spec dot, and then I'm like, oh, everything's working. And nothing's working. Okay. Middleware in role. Okay, we've got our middleware. Now, oh, this is an arrow. Here in our test, it should return 401 on no user. Let's create that one, async, throw new error not written. I like to do that so that just in case I forget, it's like, oh, the test is passing because it does nothing. Okay, it should return 401 on no user. It should return 401 on no matching role. And it should return next on role match. Okay. So how's this going to work? Well, we do arrange, act, assert. Here in the act, we're going to say const in role middleware equals in role, and we'll pass in the role. We'll pass in the required role. And now we got back that function. That function const, oh, I don't think this needs to be async. I think that might be my fail. Now we have this in-role middleware. Let's call this in-role middleware. We'll pass in a request and a response and a next function. And inside this next function, I'm going to say called next equals true. Let called next equals false. Assert. Expect called next to equal expected called next. and expect res.state.status to equal expected status. Okay, so we need to create some stuff. Const expected status in this case will be undefined because this thing won't set it. Const expected called next. In this case, I expect that to be true. Const required role equals user role dot catalog editor. In role, let's import some stuff. Yep, I want that from there. I want that from there. Okay. Oh, yes, I need to crawl up farther than that. Let's try again. In role comes from outside the test, inside source, inside middleware, inside in role. Perfect. And similar thing here. Let's walk all the way up to types and go grab the user. Okay, so mocks. Let's go grab some mocks from over here. Over here. Now, I need a request and a response. I don't need a database in this case. I don't need any parameters. I want to do something like that. Okay, let's import them from all the things. Okay, now I do need to pass in a user. And so let's say const user equals this as user, and roles will be an array that includes the actual role. In this case, it will be user role.catalog editor. As user. Yep. Now I don't have a mechanism for passing in a user yet, so let's add that. User comes in here, and user is optional, and it is of type user or undefined. Request.user is user. Let's go grab user from here. And, oh, yeah, we need to crawl a little further than that. Dot dot slash, dot dot slash, dot dot slash, source, types, user. Nice. Okay. So now we've got this mock request that can take in a user. We've got our request. We're passing in our request and our response. That's perfect. And we call the expected result. What's kind of interesting is this is the only thing that's going to be different in each test. So in this test, we expect it to be expected status to be 401. Expect called next. Nope, false. With the required role, we'll leave it the same, and the user will say you have catalog read only, or we could give it nothing. Okay, so act and assert. Let's say run test. We'll pass in our user. Actually, let's pass in our required role, our user, our expected status, and our expected called next. And now we can do this. Let's grab this. We will put it here, and we will say function run test. Now this takes in all of these things. Required role is a user role. User is a user or undefined. Expected status is a number or undefined. Expected called next is a Boolean. And now we have kind of a generic way to do this. Oh, let's open this function. Haha. Okay, now it isn't an async. I don't need to put async in all of the places, but function run test is not found. That is interesting. Why did I not? This is not async. This is not async. I'm guessing I have a really simple typo somewhere. But okay, in this case, user is undefined. Haha. Now run test. Why are you not function run test? I'm guessing I have oh, haha. There we go. Now it's a function. Nope. Show me the npm run test. I'm guessing it's that VS Code just hasn't found it yet. It hasn't compiled the thing. So let's run all of the tests this way, and we'll see if we've got it. Enroll. So now that we've got our enroll methodology built, now we can start sprinkling it around in all of the places. So let's validate that we're in role, user role dot catalog editor. Now I need to be catalog editor to be able to modify a product. I need to be catalog editor to be able to modify, to create a new product and to delete a product. I also need to be a catalog editor here to be able to do these. And let's go grab enroll from here. And let's go grab user role from here. And we'll probably need to go grab those. Nope. Products is still an anonymous. Oh, we did grab it in all those places. Cool. How have our tests gone? Run test is not defined. Enroll.spec.ts. Describe. It opens and closes. It opens and closes. It opens and does not close. And there we go. Haha. Okay, now that we've got our role validation, now again, when it goes to run the actual thing, it will log in as that user, and if that user doesn't have permission to do the thing, then of course we'll get an error in our SQL query, but we're not catching that error and doing anything unique there. We're just kind of throwing a 500 error. So by checking whether you're in the role before we do the query, then we can go validate all of those details straight away. Now that we're also passing roles, let's go, I don't know, get roles. Right now we don't have, right now as we're doing this, we're returning all the roles. That's great. But as we're doing this, we're not building up the roles. Let's go build up the roles. So, oh, if not DB, let's do, here's the part, await db.end. That's where we weren't closing our connection. So we need to go build up some roles. Well, we've got our database right here. We've got our user connection, which is great. I did Docker exec into it. I did a memsql. So now we can do things like show, or rather select user. We did this last time and we saw the user. I didn't log in as anyone unique here. we can say show grants, and here's the grants associated with this user. Well, parsing this is kind of annoying, kind of really annoying, but there is select star from information schema dot users groups. Here's the users groups table, and that shows all of the things. Now notice that with each one, it's website at host. So it's user at host rather than just the username. But in this case, all of the hosts are %. So we may just be able to ignore that. Let's say select user and group from information schema, users groups, where user equals admin at %. Oh, is that not right? Well, let's dump that where part out right now. Okay, so there's all of the content. Now, why did I need to do this backtick here? Well, I could just say group and user, but, well, user is a keyword, group is a keyword, and so it's really having trouble parsing that syntax. So if I specify the backtick here, then I get what I want. That is cool. So let's come back in here to our database. We want to go grab some SQL, and we can say where user equals question mark. Let's just cheat and go grab a query from somebody. Yeah, you've got a good query. Const rows. We're going to execute expecting a row data packet. Yes, let's pull that in. And we want to pass in user and host. And we want to say select the roles. Select the user and the group from information schema where users groups where user equals blah. Now, technically, these are groups. These aren't roles. A user is a member of a group is a member of a role, and a role has permissions. But in this case, because our roles and our groups are named the same, we can probably conflate those two terms in this case. It's not perfect, but it's pretty good. Okay, so const user and host equals username at %. Okay. So now we should get some rows back. If we don't have rows, then that's totally fine. We don't want to say let's bail out, but if rows dot length, then we want to go harvest the roles. So I'm going to say const roles is a user role array, and that equals an empty array so far. Let's pull in user roles. So now rows dot for each row. For each row, we will have a r.group. Now we can match this to things. So let's say if r.group equals user editor, and I just made that constant up, then roles.push user roles.user editor. So we can do something like this. Now, why wouldn't we just map into an array? Well, what if it isn't one of these? Yeah, I could do a map and a filter, and that might be a little bit easier. But let's just do this and see if it gets us through the day. unknown role. So if they are catalog editor, then we will say catalog editor. And if they're catalog read only, then, oh, I did that wrong. This goes there, and this is catalog read only. Okay. I suspect that we'll probably do this a couple of times, and so moving this to a central place may make sense in time. Right now, let's just leave it there. Okay, let's declare some constants. So back here in the user type, we can say export const user editor equals user editor. Now I really want to do this here, but this const is a value that is created as we spin it up, and this is a computed value that is built when and so yeah, it doesn't. They need to be separate. I don't like it, but it is what it is. So this is catalog editor, and this is catalog read only, and this is catalog read only. And now because I have all of those constants in all of the places, then back here inside auth.ts, I can just pull those into place, and catalog editor, user editor, catalog read only. There we go. Is catalog read only not a thing? Oh, haha. Case. Case is hard. Okay, so now we've got these roles. We're exporting the roles when we get the close DB connection. We're done with it. Nice. Now we return the roles as part of this. So what could be really cool here in our end-to-end test of our auth, we're checking to validate that the secret is there. Let's also say expect res.body. Well, res.body is a user. Let's just do that. Const user equals res.body as user. Let's pull in user. Why, yes, I would like it from user, except for I would like it from all the way up there. Types user. Okay. So now we've got user. Let's say expect user. Nah. User. User.roles to equal, well, in this case, we're logging in as the admin user. So we have user role dot, yes, please pull this in for me. Thank you. User role dot catalog editor and user role dot user editor, because we are the admin user. Now, when we run this test, it's actually gonna, the order of these is a little bit weird. It's not deterministic. So let's say sort and dot sort, and now they will be in the same order. What order is that? I don't know, but it doesn't matter. And for the sake of just in case, I will say as user or undefined. Cool. So as our tests are running, now we can validate that we're getting the roles that we expect. Why isn't it all 3 roles? Well, because in our database migration script, we only chose to put in those 2. If we changed our mind and wanted to put in more, we definitely could. Or if we wanted to change this test admin user and test admin password to something that is only for tests, then we could definitely, tweak out a user that is exactly the way we want. Maybe in time we'll have a test that creates a user, and then it's a known quantity. Right now, I'm just going to say it's good. Cannot read property roles of undefined. That is interesting. I wonder if... Oh, I didn't save. Haha. Okay. So now we should have roles. There shouldn't be a time where we create a user without roles, even if that roles is blank. So if we don't have any rows coming back from our select user and group from information schema, then we won't have this. Maybe we might want to throw in this case. That might be an interesting thing, but for now we'll just ignore it. How's this going? One failed. Ugh. Which one failed? Let's go take a look. Is it that same one because I didn't save something else? It's that same one. I bet I didn't save. Save all. Okay. npm run test. Let's run it out here just in case. Go, 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 go. Okay, this is really, really cool. So the one thing that we've built up a, it's in our middleware unit test. That's where, enroll test unit enroll roles. What line number is it? Or which test is it rather? Enroll spec 61. Okay, 61. That's in the middle of the test. 18. 18. And so here's where that user is undefined. I bet I know what happened. I'm glad that unit test was there to catch it. This is cool. So here, if there's no user, then there's no user enroll. So let's go like this. User question mark dot roles dot find. There we go. We could also say if not user, bail out early, but this will just make it go anyway. That's pretty cool. Okay, so we've done a cool mechanism of validating that the user is in role, and we've done some cool tests to validate that our unit test to validate that our middleware works as expected. But we have here inside our auth token auth.spec test, we have these big tests that will go and check a bunch of things to see if we get authentication fails. We don't have any test for under-authenticated fails. And so we can see that here in our test coverage where we're, where is it? Nope, it's not showing in our coverage. So let's go create an under-authenticated test. Now it's not going to be all that different from this test. It will be just a subset of it. In time, we might want to make it more generic to do all the things, but let's say should get 401 when post to /API/product/-1. We know that we're going to get a 404 if that doesn't exist, but we know that up here we post to /API/product. Let's do that. We know we post to it there, so let's just do it. So const response equals await post URL, const URL equals /API/product. That's gone. That's perfect. Expected to equal status. Const status should be a 401. And I do want to log in. So we do this, set the bearer token right here. Well, how do we get that token? Well, let's say const token equals await get, where is that? We have a fixture auth token. So let's pull in this auth token. Get auth token. Get auth token comes in here from this fixture. Now, if we're doing this, oh, that's weird. Oh, yes, it's not here on supertest. It's here on post. Haha. Now, get auth token is kind of interesting. Get auth token will always use the admin username and admin password. Now, we could completely duplicate this method and just take one in that sends in username and password. Nah. Let's do this. Username is a string or undefined, and password is a string or undefined. And now we can say if not username and not password, then let's set them to these. Otherwise, we'll take the username and password that are passed to it. Now, they are optional. So all of the existing tests that don't use this are totally fine. But now let's say username and password. Well, in this case, the username and password are the, pardon me. Username and password are admin, but let's say website, or even better, read-only username and password. Read-only username and password will go get an auth token. That auth token will come into this and we expect that status to be as we expect. Well, let's go set read-only username and password here in our environment file. Here's our env file. Test read-only username is website, and test read-only password is password. And now our auth test will go validate that we should get an under-authenticated mechanism when we are authenticated, but we don't have a thing. Now we could write one thing to make sure that this just didn't return null. If not token. I bet we're going to do that in a lot of places, which is why it's right there. Haha. So if we can't log in correctly, we will already fail. That's perfect. npm run test. And this test will validate in that under-authenticated scenario, we'll get the results that we expect. In time, we probably want to genericize this method so that we can pass in a suite of URLs and either pass in usernames and passwords or hard code them to this read-only username and password. That could be pretty cool. We did that here, which actually worked out pretty well. So let's do it again. So there's that. Switch method, const method equals post. But we do want to set the authorization everywhere. There we go. Now, much like we did up here, we could just create an array of things. Let's do that. We'll create an array of things. Now, that array is definitely larger than the array that we want, but then that array, it should get status when method to URL. Cool.